Hello and welcome to the epidemic. My name, like always, is Narb, and so I've decided to come back to the series just for a little bit, and we're gonna see if we can't at least try to add a few things onto it before Forge comes out. And yes, because Forge isn't entirely out yet, I've decided that we're gonna make these episodes mostly focused around discussion rather than design. But of course, we're going to keep it as relevant to Forge as we can. Today's topic is something that really irritates me, and it is still going on currently in the Forge community right now. And well, if you've already read the title, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Feedback and criticism is easily the biggest thing that tears this community apart. I've been around long enough to see it happen just like all the time, and sometimes it is handled really well, but most of the time, one side of the debate just gets way out of hand. So today I'd like to talk about some examples that I've seen in the past and explain why it normally isn't handled well with most forgers. In an ideal world, players wouldn't need to give feedback. Everyone would be a perfect forger who could make perfect maps, and they would all play perfectly and everyone would have fun. Unfortunately, that will never happen, so feedback is always going to be necessary. You really shouldn't look at this as a bad thing necessarily. I mean, just look at why we do it. Forgers give feedback to each other because they want to help people improve their maps. Sometimes a third-person perspective can help show you things that you normally weren't able to see. That's why before forgers publish their maps, they have them play-tested. And depending on how serious you want to consider that map to be, the amount of testing time can vary. A map being tested for matchmaking is obviously going to see a lot more testing than a map that is just made for random custom game lobbies. And if you do ever get to that high of a forging level, like matchmaking for example, then you will definitely need to hear some criticism. That's the kind of stuff I went through when I had my map Payload in the matchmaking waiting list, and I'd say we probably tested for about an entire month. And when I say that, I truly mean it. One day after another, we would have time scheduled with the old cartographers and host custom game lobbies every single night. So I guess the main point here is that feedback is important, and you shouldn't be discouraged if you hear something that you don't like. Sometimes, unfortunately, the truth can hurt. And I've seen far too many times where a forger will ask the lobby's opinions about his map and then just immediately get super defensive and try and make excuses for just about everything. If you're that kind of person, stop doing that. This doesn't mean you're not allowed to explain why you did certain things, but don't totally disregard everything that the other forgers try to tell you, because then there really isn't even a point for asking for feedback in the first place. Okay, now let's switch sides for a minute. Let's say you're the person that's being asked to give their thoughts. To a point, it doesn't really matter who you are. Everyone is able to give a basic response to really any kind of map. But if you decide to get really technical about certain points, just please make sure you actually know what you're talking about. Just because you're asked to give your opinion about a map, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to give an incredibly in-depth report about it. Unless of course you feel comfortable enough to do it and have the knowledge to back it up. Like if it was me, for example, I would have to say I have a fair understanding of Forge, being here as long as I have been. But I know that I personally know very little about vehicle pathways and how they should be designed. I was never a BTB forger, so it's just simply an area that I was never acquainted with. And if someone were then to ask me, hey Narb, do you think the infantry route should be about 5 units away from the vehicle pathways? And so instead of me trying to sound like a smart guy and give you an answer, I would honestly just say, I'm probably not the best person to ask. This just really isn't my area. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Nobody is expected to know everything about Forge. Another issue that I see pretty often is just general rudeness. There is a difference between giving honest feedback and then just being straight up insulting. This usually comes up the most when someone puts on, a fairly bad map, and then for some reason forgers just like to jump all over that, and then they start being really mean. Please, for the love of everything guys, just try and remember that feedback is supposed to help forgers improve. Telling somebody that their map is total garbage isn't going to help that forger get any better. I also just see a lot more experienced forgers act really arrogant whenever they get a chance to give criticism. That type of entitlement is what gets people angry at one another. It's okay to have friendly debates about design. I mean, I have those all the time, and I really like hearing what other people have to say about, certain stuff. But just simply stating, no, sorry, I'm right, and you're wrong, isn't going to get you anywhere. In fact, it's probably going to lose you whatever respect you had, and just create more unnecessary problems. That's been occurring very lately often, and I'm honestly just sick of it, and I think it's very stupid. So guys, just please remember that at the end of the day, we're all just playing a video game. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to go over. I'm not really too sure how you guys look at all of this, so please feel free to comment down below. And remember that this community starts with you guys, so let's try and make it a better place for a change. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the near future.